What's up, softball players? Coach Dan Blewett here. In today's video, we're going to cover preseason prep and seven things you can do to be ready for the season. So every year, players scramble to get ready. You know, they spend their whole winter playing basketball, which is fine. Like, I know there's lots of multi-sport athletes and parents of multi-sport athletes watching my videos, and being well-rounded is great. But what you don't want to do is really scramble, wait till the last minute. You haven't thrown, you haven't run, you haven't been in shape for softball, and then your arm starts acting up, you know, you pull something, etc., etc. So today we're going to go over 7 things that you should be doing real quick to get ready for the season. Okay, number 1, get your throwing volume up. So obviously I'm a former baseball pitcher, and so building up in my throwing volume was a huge part of my life for 2 decades, really. And what that means is you don't just, the season starts on March 1st, so I'm going to start throwing a ton on February 1st. That's not okay. Your arm's not going to be happy with you. You need to make sure you're planning ahead. I know it's January already, but you should be starting now by throwing 3 days a week. Then after maybe 2 weeks of that, 4 days a week. Then after a couple weeks of that, 5 days a week. And this doesn't mean you need to be throwing hard every day. Rather, you just need to play catch 3, 4, 5, building up to 6 days a week, because you're going to be doing that in tryouts and you're going to be doing that during the season. So here's the easy way to do it. Think about how much you're going to be throwing on the first day of your season. Probably 5 days a week, probably like 100 throws every day, because you're going to be doing tryouts and throwing a ton. So if it's 5 days a week on March 1st or March 15th or whatever, then whatever today is, you need to say, okay, 5 days a week on March 1st, and now we've been at 0. What's a logical stepping stone to get there? So maybe it's you start with twice a week this week, 3 times a week next week. You start to build up the volume, so maybe it's 60 throws every time you play catch this week, then 75 throws 2 weeks later. Work on stepping stones and make a logical progression from where you are today to tryouts, so you can get your throwing volume up, so your arm is going to be in much better shape. Number 2, get your conditioning up. So yeah, long distance, tons of long distance is not great for your softball. You know, it's not great for explosiveness, all that stuff, but having your legs under you, having a good cardiovascular base is important. You're going to be running around a lot. You're just going to be on your legs a lot. Everyone's exhausted that first week of tryouts. So I would spend maybe 2 days a week with an interval run or a 20-minute long distance run, not something crazy like 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes, but just like a 20-minute run, and do a bunch of sprints. Get your sprints in. 30s, 40s, and 60-yard lengths are really, really good. Get your conditioning up so you have your legs once tryouts hit, because again, you want to build your volume so it's not a huge shock to your system when the season gets there. Number 3 is hit off the tee. A big thing that happens every year is players get a ton of blisters in their first week, and then they can't hit the next week because their hands are still recovering. Their skin has been worn off. Hit off the tee pretty much, 3 days a week the first week, 4 days a week the next week, 5 days a week the week after that. Hit consistently. Hitting is something you can do all year round, obviously, so you don't ever have to really be out of shape with it, but make sure you're hitting off the tee consistently just to work on your mechanics. Go to a hitting coach, get a couple pointers to figure out what you should be improving, and then work on that consistently off the tee. The next tip is hit something with speed. So hit speed. Obviously, one of the really hard parts about spring training, and understand that you can't replace game action, right? So pitching machines don't replace facing actual pitchers, etc., etc. But go somewhere where you can actually hit speed. Hitting front toss and hitting off the tee, those are great and they have their place, but you do want to hit some speed so your eyes get adjusted to seeing velocity again. You really can't replace that. And if you want to be able to hit the ground running when the season starts, you do need to hit some speed and get your eyes adapted to seeing it again. Number 5, get your hand-eye coordination going, get your hands going, work on ground balls, work on picks, whatever it is. Obviously, if you're an outfielder, you should be working on your drop steps. Try to get someone to hit you fly balls. Obviously, if it's wintertime and it's super cold where you live, that's a tough thing, I know. But it's something that is really, really important, especially for infielders. There's no excuse to not get out. Go to the local tennis court, take a tennis ball, and bounce it off that big, that big wall ball that they have at pretty much every tennis court facility. Or go to your school, find a concrete wall. It's going to be pretty social distance if you're watching this during the COVID pandemic still, because you can probably find some spot on the school where you can just bounce a tennis ball off a brick wall. wall of the school, and no one's going to be anywhere near you. So there's always a place where you can just play some wall ball, work without a glove, with a paddle, whatever, and just work on your hand-eye coordination, forehands, backhands, funnels, all that stuff. It's a really easy thing to do, and all the best players are consistently working on their glove work and their hands. All right, number 6, certainly not, we're not quite at the end of the list, but this is definitely not least, is lifting weights. You should have been lifting weights for most of the off season. Unfortunately, this is a really competitive environment here in 2020, well, 2021. And if you're not lifting weights, the girl that's fighting for your position at your school or the next county over, fighting for the same scholarship, the same roster spot on a local college, she's lifting weights. Most high-level athletes are lifting weights 9 months out of the year once they get to age 15, 16 if they're really serious in playing college. Now, I'm a champion for players still having a good work-life balance, and sports do become work. But at the same time, you have to figure out your priorities. So if you just can't allocate the time to get in the weight room, then just know that you're going to lose. You absolutely are going to lose out to players that are working out consistently, because they're going to be bigger and faster and stronger and pulling ahead of you, whether it's getting faster, gaining speed and just gaining velocity, gaining bat speed, all that stuff. So make sure you're in the weight room. It's not only good for performance enhancement, but also keeping you durable, and that conditioning that we talked about, getting you ready to play and building those physical tools that every softball player needs. And lastly, number 7 is an arm care regimen. This is the one that really falls by the wayside. There certainly are less arm injuries, especially surgeries in softball players, whether it's overhand throwing or pitching. And that's probably because the ball speeds are significantly lower. In baseball, arm injuries are an epidemic. It's just out of control. But every player should be on an arm care regimen, and this means strengthening your rotator cuffs, not just doing those, or your rotator cuff, not just doing those boring band exercises, but there's lots of good exercises. I'll link below to my arm care workout. There's a free one. I made an in-depth video about it. It's great for arm strength and for injury prevention. That's the thing with arm care. It's not just for protecting against injuries. Pretty much every player, if you strengthen your rotator cuff and your shoulder, that's like the engine of your car. It's protecting your shoulder, but it's also the main thing that keeps your arm explosive, and it's stabilizing the joint, and it's like I said, it's the engine of your arm. So if you're worried about injury prevention, you should be. I mean, so many girls have shoulder problems from softball, especially if they also play volleyball. Those two conflict big time. So arm care is going to be a big help for that. And also, every ounce of prevention in this case is going to be also an ounce of performance enhancement. You're going to throw harder if you get on a consistent arm care program. Again, I have links to a great strength and conditioning program and a great free arm care program. They're from my program called Early Work with my good friend, Coach Andrew Sachs. Both him and I have worked with softball players for many, many years. So if you want a free program, do it. Take us up on it. It's in the links below. So thank you. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you enjoyed my new fancy backdrop. These are actually, they're felt acoustic pads, or acoustic tiles. It's a really cool website. It lets you design your own. So I'm not hawking the product, but I actually think this is pretty cool. So anyway, thanks for watching the video. Be sure to check out the links below. Subscribe to my channel if you're new here, and I'll see you in the next one.